Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on this channel, you are welcome, and if you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for tuning in again. So in today's video, I'll be showing you how to cut and sew this funnel corset. Someone requested that I make this corset, and here is it. This video is a long one. I don't want to split it into two, so make sure that you watch till the end. First, I want you to know that this corset comprises of two parts, the bustier part and also the overbust corset. That means you'll be drafting two front patterns. But in this video, I'll be making use of one pattern to draft both the overbust and also the bustier. Now for beginners, do well to transfer your overbust corset to a fresh pattern paper, okay? So let's start drafting. I've gone ahead to draw my horizontal lines. I have the starting line, I have my chest line which is 7 inches, I have my nipple point which is 9.5 inches, my underbust 12.5 inches. I initially did 12 inches, I'll correct it. Then my waistline 16.5 inches, corset line which is 4 inches away from your waistline is 20.5 inches, my blouse length is 23 inches. So that is what I have for my horizontal line. I'll just go ahead to mark my new underbust line. Like I said earlier, I made a mistake with half inches, so please don't get confused. The wrong one has the red marker on it, the right one doesn't have. Next, on my starting line, I'm going to go ahead to mark 7 inches for my shoulder, and I'll do the same on my chest line, and I would connect the 2 points together with a straight line. Next, I'm going to mark my neckline, which is 3 inches for the depth and 3 inches for the width. I'll use my curve ruler to connect it together just like this. Afterwards, I'll go down by half inches for my shoulder slope and connect it together like this. For my armhole curve, I'm going to divide what I have here by 2, go in by half inches and connect it together just like this. Next, on my nipple point, I'm going to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple, which is 3/4 inches. I will take that same measurement on my underbust waist corset line to my blouse length. Afterwards, I'm going to connect the points together with a straight ruler. Next, I will mark my dart line. On the other bust, I'm going to be marking 1 inches at the left and also 1 inches at the right. Please note that this straight line is actually a temporary line. We are going to construct another dart line. So I'll just go ahead to connect my darts to the nipple point just like this. Now for the new dart line, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches at my blouse length and connect it to the dart that is 1 inches away from the underbust. And for the other side of the dart, we connect it to this dart line just like this. So this is our dart line. I'll go ahead to clean what I have previously there so that we will not be confused. So next, I'll use my marker to make a stylish curve at the waist side. I don't want the dart line to be straight, so we just make this stylish curve. Note how I'm doing it. Afterwards, I'll just use my marker to enhance the dart line, okay? Next, on my shoulder line, I'm going to divide what I have there by 2 and connect it to my nipple point. Afterwards, I'm going to go up by 1 inches from my chest line just to create an overbust line. This is going to be a guideline for me to form my bustier curve. So next, I'm going to take my body measurements, and to do that, I'll first of all check out what I have at my dart line, and I'm also going to mark another dart line which is going to be half inches. Therefore, in total, I'll be marking 2.5 inches for my dart allowance. So I have 7 inches for my waist, and I'll be adding 2.5 inches for my dart allowance. Next, I'll be taking my hip measurement on my blouse line. My hip is about 38 inches, so I'll mark that and also add the dart allowance which will be there. Afterwards, I'll just connect the points together. On my waistline, I'll just take a straight line upward to my bust. So on my nipple area here, I'm going to go down by 1 inches to create my side dart. So on my waistline, I will divide what I have there by 2 to form my new dart line. Remember I said I'll be taking half inches, so I will divide that into 2 for the left and the right side, and I'm going to just make my line just like this. Also on the blouse length, I'll measure what I have at the waist side and then I'll connect it also like this. Next, I'll go ahead to mark out my bustier dart. So on my over bust, I measured 1/4 inch at both sides, and then I'll just go up just like this. On my chest line, I'll be going down by 1/4 inch. Okay, this is to form my bustier curve. I want it to have this sweetheart shape, remember. So I'm measuring 3.5 inches on the left and 3.5 inches on the right. That's how wide my bustier is going to be from my nipple. I mean, that's the length. So I'll go ahead to connect it down to the 1/4 inch I marked at the center part here to form my sweetheart neckline. After that is done, before we construct the other side, we need to make a new armhole curve. Okay, so we are going to take 1/4 inch that we've taken from one part of our bustier dart, and then we are going to make a new armhole curve. I'm going to extend the shoulder and then we construct our arm curve. I'll clean the old one so we don't get confused, and then I'll connect the other bustier line to the armhole. So after drafting this, I realized I need to make my bustier arm to be under the overbust corset so that it's going to sit well. So I'm going to redraft this. So at the chest line in the arm area, I'm going to go down by 1/2 inch. To just make the curve just like this. This is going to make the bustier to sit well under the overbust corset. So please don't get confused. Identify your armhole for your bustier. Next, I'll be drafting the overbust corset. On my nipple point at the center, I'll be going down by 1/2 inches just like this. I'll be using the green marker so that we can identify the bustier and the overbust corset. And then for the upper part, I'll be going up. Remember I said the bustier should be under the overbust. Okay, so I'll just go up like this to connect it to my arm curve. Alright, so this is what we have. The green marker is for the overbust corset. So next, for the bottom line, I'm going to go up by 1/2 inches on my corset line, and then I'm going to connect it to this dart line just like this, and the other side I'll just make it straight. So to close my side dart, I'm going to go ahead to open my shoulder dart. Okay, and on the other hand, I need to confirm if my bustier are meeting each other. Okay, so this is what I went ahead to do, and then after confirming that, I'll just go ahead to cut it. take note, the green is for the over bust while the red is for the bustier. When transferring to your transfer sheet, just use your tracing rule to mark the green side, okay, what is for the over bust, you mark it on your transfer sheet. But bear with me, I'll be using just one sheet to draft both the bustier and the over bust. So next I'll go ahead to draft the back of my corset, and I'll mark 7.5 inches, 7 inches for my corset line, then 15.5 inches for my half length, which is also my waistline, and then 22.5 inches for my blouse length. Please note that the difference between the back and the front of my bodice is 1 inches. So just like the front bodice, I'll be marking 7 inches on my shoulder, and then take my body measurement. So I've marked my bust, my waist, and also the hip side, which is on the blouse length. I went ahead to add 2 inches, which I'm going to use for that allowance. So make sure that you just do everything at once like this. Now for my eyelet allowance, I'm marking 1.5 inches on the upper part and then 1 inches on the lower part. Okay, so what I have left on my waistline, I'm going to divide it by 3 so as to mark my dart line. So I will just take 1/2 inches on both sides. That's 1 inches in total on the 2 darts. So after connecting the lines together, I'll just go up by 1/2 inches on the corset line to form the bottom curve, and I'll connect it to the dart just like this. Also at the upper part, I went down by 1/2 inches to just give it this curve. Alright, so next I'll just go ahead to cut. So this is where the eyelet will be, and then don't forget to label your pattern. We have the center back, the middle, and the side back. I'm also going to go ahead to label my front pattern as well, and this is what we have. Here I have cut out my fabric and I have added 1/2 inches allowance on all the sides. I also went ahead to cut out notches at the waistline across and also at the nipple point. So I added 1/2 inch except on the bottom part and also on the upper part. That's because we are going to be taping it, so we don't need sewing allowance for that. So next for my bustier lining, I'm going to go ahead to add interfacing and wording to it. Please note that I only added wording to the middle and also the center. I didn't add to the side. We are using the bust caging method, so that's why we are going to be adding wording just like this. So I've gone ahead to add interfacing to every other part of my fabric. So let's go ahead to sew. First I'll be starting with the back of my corset. That's because I'll be using this simple method to join it. You can use any method of your choice. You can check out other corset videos on my channel to see how I join the back of my corset, but for this funnel corset, this is what I'm doing. So I will sew down the center part like this, and then for the side I will put the 2 sides together, use my pin to pin it down. That is why it's important that you take notches. Okay, you just need to sew by 1/2 inches straight down. I'll do the same thing on the other side, put the notches together, then I will add the side back to it. Okay, so that is how simple it is. Now for this method, I'll be using a plastic bone. I'm not using a sewable bone. So what I'll do is that I will sew on the fabric, and then that's going to create channel where my bone is going to go in. So that means your sewing will be showing on your fabric. If you don't want your sewing to show on your fabric, then don't do this method. So I'll just go ahead to join every other part, and this is what we have. This is for the overbust corset. I've joined it together. It has both the front and also the lining parts. For the boning of the overbust corset, you can encase your bone and then sew it on it. You can as well sew directly on the fabric. I'll be using this method for this overbust corset. So I have this 1.5 inches fabric which I have cut out, and that I'm going to be using it to cover the bone. Also, I'll be using the sewable boning for the overbust corset and also for the bustier. So here's the bustier, that is the outer part, and where the wording is the lining. So I've gone ahead to iron all the parts, and then next I will go ahead to show you how I'm going to bone my bustier. So first, at the upper part, make sure that you give such kind of distance, about half an inch away from the main point. Okay, that's going to serve as the sewing allowance where you are going to turn your fabric. I'll just mark my boning channels like this at the side, then my bone will pass also at the bust area, that's the center of the breast point. Then I'm going to just go ahead and mark the remaining lines just like this. So to sew the boning, make sure that your bone curve should be facing you. Okay, that is the right side. So first I sewed the boning to the nipple area, and then also at the center area of the nipple. Then I'll go ahead to just do the remaining parts just like this. So this is what we have. I'll just go ahead to turn it upside down like this, because that's where the front part or the right side will be on. So when I've done that, I'll go ahead to iron it using my tailor's arm. You can see how I'm taking my time to mold it and fold it on the arm, so that it's going to bring out the bust curve very well. So make sure you take your time and do it. If you're not using a steam iron like me, use your dry iron and water. Okay, it's going to still bring out the same results. Next, for the filling, I'll be using my fiber, and I'll be cutting two parts of this. So I'll just use the fiber to cover the boning. You can use an hairstay to maybe like about 5 layers to 3 layers of hairstay. They are also good to go, but me, I prefer using the fiber. It gives me a very good feeling. So I'll place my hemming gum on the boning like this, so as to iron my fibers to it, and this is what I'm doing right here. I'll put in another hemming gum to place the second layer of my fiber. For me, the second layer does the real filling. I'm just ironing it, but I'll still use my hand to bring it out more. You see what I'm trying to say. So I'll just trim out the excesses just like this. Cut out the 1/2 inches that you use for the sewing allowance. Make sure that you cut it as a vertical, cut more. Okay, so as it will not disturb the stitches or give it that kind of a weird look at the upper side. So this is what I'm talking about. I'll use my hand to bring out the fibers, not to make it flat. So just use your hand to bring it out. It's going to make, the right side of your fabric to get that kind of volume, especially at the nipple point area. Okay, so just use your hand to bring it out, then you can use the right side of the cloth to cover it. Don't use your iron to flatten it out like this. So this is it. I've gone ahead to turn the lining and the right side of the fabric, and then I'm just trying to make a mold like this. I've used my pin to pin it down, so that I will know what it looks like. Now for the overbust corset, I will take my chalk and then mark where the boning channels will be. First, I mark at the center part of the overbust, then I divide what I have between the two joinings, and between the joining and the center part into two, and I'll do the same thing also for the right side and also for the remaining part. In between two joinings, try to add one boning to it, so you can see what I'm doing. So when that is done, I'm going to show you how I'm going to bone the overbust corset. So I've cut out about 1.5 inches bias tape, and I am using a 1/2 inches bone. You can use any bone of your choice. Okay, so like I said, I'll make sure that the copy part of the bone is facing me upward, not the other way around. Okay, so I'll put in my bone in the bias tape just like this. Okay, so I'll fold in the boning into the bias tape tightly like this, using my hand to draw it tight at the upper part and also at the lower part. This will enable me to sew on the boning and on the fabric itself. So I'll do it on the other side to make sure that your fabric is tight on the boning, so that you can sew directly on the edge of the boning. So that is how I did the bone for every other side that I marked. So after that is done, I went ahead to give it a very good press. Now when pressing it, make sure that you also use your tailored arm to also form this. Make sure that you target the underbust side, okay, to give it this curve on your bone. Please note that I also sewed a boning on the hem of the bustier cut, the overbust corset. So I'll just go ahead to pin both the overbust and also the bustier together with my pin, and then I'm going to iron it together. So on the hem of the overbust corset, we are going to use our bias tape to cover the bone. After that is done, I will come back again to pin both the bustier and the overbust together. You can see that I am pinning the waist side that I notch. So it is very important that you notch all the sides. Okay, this is going to help you in arranging your fabrics together. You can see that the bustier arm is coming under the overbust corset. This is what I was trying to talk about when drafting. Okay, this is going to make your bustier to sit well on your overbust. So after I've pinned everything together just like this, I will go ahead to add the back of the corset to it, facing the right side. Okay, because we are going to be passing in our bone at the side as well. So after joining, I'll just cut out the excesses just like this, and then next we tape the upper part. Like I said earlier, taping doesn't need like additional sewing allowance. Okay, so to tape that part, make sure that you iron your bias like this. This is going to help you while sewing. So this is what I have placed bone on the two sides of the joining, and also I'll go ahead to tape the upper part and also the lower part of the corset, and we are done. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Do well to like and also share to your friends. Bye.